Welcome to another episode of Things I Learned in my PhD So You Don't Have to Do It, a show where I interview PhDs and soon-to-bes about the lessons they learned in their degree that either transform them or traumatize them. Either way, you won't have to do it. My guest today is Amanda Willms. Amanda is a fourth-year PhD candidate at the University of Victoria studying digital health. And fun fact about Amanda, when she feels threatened, she physically contorts herself into a sphere and is able to roll away to safety. Amanda, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Joe. I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad to see you here in non-sphere mode. I know that means that you're feeling comfortable and unthreatened.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We'll see by the end of this chat. Maybe I'll roll out.
Yeah, just like and then out. Yeah.
Gotta go.
So, Amanda, tell me a little bit about your PhD. What was your experience with it like? And also, what's the topic of your PhD?
Yeah. I'm doing my PhD, as you mentioned, at the University of Victoria in the Digital Health Lab. My specific research looks at using just-in-time adaptive interventions to create a physical activity program for people with diabetes. So what that means in not academic jargon is that I basically just want to give people exercise content at a time where they're most likely to do exercise. So using things like wearable devices like Fitbits and Apple Watch, and then blood glucose monitors, and then taking all that data and pushing people to exercise when they're likely to exercise.
Yeah, right. So I remember when we were chatting a bit about this, when I was at the University of Victoria and kind of
Mhm.
learning about just-in-time adaptive interventions or JEDIs for the first time. I thought it was kind of interesting that you're able to, in a way, take all of this data, where people are like moving and their like step count and maybe even the time of day, and then to like
Mhm.
tailor this kind of intervention for them. What makes the diabetic, like how does the blood glucose thing play into the JEDI?
Yeah, well, very similar to how, like, if you're wearing an Apple Watch and you're sitting down for a while, you get prompted, hey, you should move a bit.
Mhm.
Um, Similar with that, we have blood glucose monitors where people with diabetes, often with their insurance companies, they're able to actually just wear these and have it covered by those. So then, if we're in a time, say after a meal, where our glucose is a little bit higher, we can take that data. And then, when we're recognizing, or the system recognizes that blood glucose is a little bit higher, we could prompt them, hey, how about you go for a 5-minute walk after your meal today? So, kind of incorporating those insights with devices that people already have. We're seeing a lot of the population has these Fitbits and these Apple Watches, so might as well kind of use that data for a little bit more than just kind of sitting there.
Do you have a Fitbit yourself or like some kind of activity monitor?
I wear a Garmin. I
Oh,
love
fancy. Oh, you
to,
must be
yeah.
a runner.
Well, yes, I was with the Apple Watch, but I found the battery life is a little lower. Maybe cut that part out so that I don't get hated by Apple here, but I do like the
You are here
Garmin.
first. Amanda Willms is an Apple
Yeah.
hater.
Yeah, but anything's good. I mean, it really just
Yeah.
depends on what works for you and your goals and what you like to
Yeah.
have on your
Yeah.
wrist.
I don't know how many people like are aware of this because I learned it kind of recently-ish, but your phone actually has like in the health app has an accelerometer that will track your steps, but you actually have to go into like the health app or I don't know what it's called for Google and actually like
Yeah.
activate it for it to start collecting that.
Yeah, they wanna have a little bit of privacy there, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's also, like, subject to not collect everything if you don't have your phone on you and you're moving. It's always not,
Okay.
like, not the most accurate, but something's better
Yeah.
than nothing if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Moving a little bit to now your PhD experience. Fourth year
Mhm.
PhD candidate. How is the light at the end of the tunnel? Is it getting any closer, any brighter?
I feel like this is, like, the most painful light at the end of the tunnel, like, it's
I
there
shouldn't
and
have
I
asked. Never mind.
yeah, I know it's there, it's in the distance, it's, like,
Yeah.
slowly getting brighter, but it's still just, like, I'm, like, at the crawling to get there before I feel like the
Yeah.
last little bit is just well, it's like a culmination of the past few years, but then also just, like, yeah,
Tell me about it.
that final push is tough. Well, it's just it continues to be a marathon, and it is a very long marathon.
Yeah. Hence the
But
Garmin.
yeah, me and my Garmin tracking with my good battery life.
Tracking your
Right
mood. It's just like it's been like
yeah.
at the bottom for like the last year.
Actually, a funny feature with Garmin is that since it detects your heart rate,
Yeah.
if you have a spike in your heart rate, which I often get before I do presentations, it's
Yeah.
like, relax reminder, you should calm down.
You
Like, don't
should.
provide you those roads. But I'm like, okay, like I've done so many presentations at this point. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
need this right now.
You know what'd be
I
good for
have,
you right now? If you just
yeah.
relax and did it, just nailed it. the first
Yeah,
time.
that's when I turn into a sphere and roll
Yeah, exactly. Roll
it.
out. Nice. So what
Yeah.
have you been finding to be like a difficult part then coming to the I don't want to say the end, but coming to the fourth year, that's been kind of either keeping you back or has just been difficult, like more difficult than you anticipated.
Ooh, that's a good question. I think just hmm, yeah, like
That's okay. Take time.
remembering what it's all for. And
Yeah.
like there's so many times where you're at like you're so close to the end, but it's like, oh, I just need to go back and change these few things
Yeah.
one last time. And like, yeah, just not giving up on something that you put so much effort in for so long.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
like reading it over one more time,
Oh my
doing like
gosh.
running your
Yeah.
data one more time, making sure you didn't miss anything. It's just like, yeah, just a lot of repeating and checking over your work and just making sure
Yeah,
that
I remember how burdensome it was for me to go through my like PhD dissertation and like having to read through it so many times. And it feels like, I don't know. I don't know if you got this or have this with whatever kind of the stuff you've written so far, but
Mhm.
by the third time I've read over something, I just forget what language is. I'm just like, ah, like maybe this means something. I have no idea the meaning of any of these things anymore. Uh,
Totally, or I go to share a document too, and I'm like, "I swear I read this over so many times," and then it comes back with, like, comments next to it, I'm like, "I wrote this? Like, what?" I s
ChatGPT, why
Yeah.
can't I make this better? Don't do that.
No, no,
Don't do
no. Never, never, ever.
never. You would never.
Couldn't be me. I've started doing what I call interpretive read-throughs. So I like to stand up and like have my laptop nearby and I like
Okay.
read aloud in a voice that I wouldn't usually talk in. Just
Oh,
like just
okay.
like a little bit more dramatic to try to like play it up, you know? And it just
Yeah.
like makes reading things not so
Okay.
boring.
I like that. I might try that.
Yeah.
Just like reading through your dissertation, be like, in a world where people with diabetes don't know when to exercise. I like that.
Exactly. Because
So
like
is
reading
yeah, go on.
I was gonna say, yeah, because like, reading over the same thing, like, 8 times, it's like, this is, like it's not even going through my brain, it's,
Yeah,
like, from
it's
one
not
eye
English,
over
it's not a
here.
language, it's just,
Yeah, totally. So, that's
yeah.
been my little way to help me get
So
through a lot of
interpretive
it.
reading, is that the lesson or is there a bigger lesson that was
My
you can learn kind of from your
that's
PhD?
that's my to the final push lesson.
Okay.
My bigger lesson of my PhD is definitely learning how to delegate and,
Okay.
having yeah, just being able to give up portions of
Okay.
a task where when you're writing about it, you're saying, I did this, or we did
Yeah.
this. But then it's like, it's not just you doing this. There's so many
Yeah.
things where even like working on a systematic review, for example, you're not going to be the only one that's like
Yeah.
going through thousands of papers. That would not only
Yeah.
is that not allowed, but
It's
it's
not
just not a
rigorous, yeah.
reality
Yeah.
of kind of what the research process is. So like learning where you
Okay.
can ask for help and kind of what can get delegated to either like other PhD students or master students or undergrads or just other research assistants in your lab.
Yeah.
And
I
kind of
I I like the word that you used there where you said, parts of the thing that you can give up, because I think giving up is a very apt way of putting it. Because in a way, and maybe you can kind of speak to this, I feel like when I take on a project, or I'm, telling people I'm going to take the lead on a project, it feels like I also simultaneously take on the responsibility for everything. And it can be really hard to relinquish kind of that like control over some pieces of it because you don't want to be like, oh, well, I'm responsible for this, but I gave it to someone who didn't do a good job and now it looks bad on me. Right.
yeah.
So maybe you can speak to like, how do you get over maybe the difficulties in actually being able to delegate?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the first time you're gonna delegate, it's, like, so
Yeah.
easy to just, like, hand over parts of,
Yeah.
like, a very rigorous methodology that you wrote out and then you got approved by your committee and it just, like, has
Yeah.
circled and circled and circled and you've essentially beat the horse to the ground.
Yeah.
But I think definitely with time and even learning, like, what I am okay with not doing and what I realistically can do and still get done in a reasonable amount of time. So, like, when you're working with things with tighter deadlines, like a systematic review where you have a certain number of months, like, it's just not realistic for you to do everything by yourself, or it's not realistic to even, yeah, think about that in most cases, even outside of academia, you're not just one person doing something from start to finish, which can be a very, like, real reality when you're in a PhD and, like, kinda in the dumps and you're like, "It's just me and this dissertation versus the world." Um, but yeah, I think just, like, getting more and more comfortable with the more and more projects you work on, and then even just, like, yeah, like, learning to trust your team members. Like, you're all in this position because or you're, like, interested in research because you want to, like, further the
Yeah.
science and, like, do well. Like, no one's gonna screw
Yeah.
you over or any of the negative thoughts that are in your head. Like, maybe some things need to be read over because maybe that person's not as talented or as, like, strong in certain areas
As
and you're
talented. I
stronger.
like that. That's a
That
good
was a bad word.
euphemism.
Maybe crop that one up, but just, like, we all have different strengths.
The
We
person you've
all
delegated to just like listening to this and be like, what do you mean not as talented?
yeah. My inbox is gonna be blowing up after this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But even yeah, and then even getting into, like, the senior years of your PhD when, like, you're the one who's expected to know things, but then you don't actually know everything that you're kinda delegating to
Yeah,
do, so then you're, like, learning with people
yeah.
who are also learning how to do everything from start to finish too, so it's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. I like that.
understanding that we're all learning and we're all gonna get there. No one
Yeah.
I think also accepting that no one's gonna die if I make, like, a wee little mistake here or there, like, this
Yeah.
isn't brain surgery.
Yeah, unless you're actually doing a degree in brain surgery, in which case,
Yeah.
but
In which
for
case,
most of
avoid.
us, yeah, don't listen to this at all. Honestly, this isn't the podcast for you. But I like the way
Asymptomatic or
you've
do you want oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I get what you're getting at. I like what you were saying, and I totally agree that delegation and is really, I think maybe more accurately, it is collaboration, right? Like
Mhm.
you're not in a team of other with other researchers because you all know the exact same thing and are good at the exact same things and should be spending your time on the exact same things. Um, Collaboration really is the spirit of science and academia because we are trying to draw on each other's, you know, differing strengths and differing knowledge
Mhm.
bases. And so I totally see how, yeah, it is. I think delegation in a way sometimes gets a bad rap, maybe because it's like, "Oh, I don't want to do this," rather
Yeah,
than it being like, "This project is actually made better through me bringing someone else on and having them help out with this," or if not, if only just to give another perspective on this thing, right? Um,
definitely, yeah.
do you
Mhm.
find that there's like a particular kind of task though that you, delegate more often than others?
Um, definitely, if I go, like I'll go relatively specific, but, like, in a very, like, data cleaning way, there's definitely, like, the very beginning stuff that
Yeah.
I was there, I did that, and it's part of the learning process,
You earned your
and
stripes.
I once was chatting with a professor, and she said that one of her strategies, I guess, of like staying and like holding her space and like putting her energy into her work is she only does the things that she 100% knows that only she can do. And everything
Okay.
else, she'll be delegating and like finding that out. Obviously, as like a PhD student, I'm not quite at the point where
Yeah.
I can, have such flexibility, but I think definitely, um, yeah, with more of those, like, beginner steps of,
Yeah,
like, starting the
yeah.
research process, I definitely now lean more towards kinda delegating those off or even just,
Yeah.
like, working alongside someone else doing it to have, like, a teachable moment.
Mhm.
It's like
No, I like
validation
that, I
and
like that.
things.
And I also like the thing you brought up with this professor's advice
Mhm.
where, do definitely know the things that you uniquely are, positioned to be able to do and have the strength,
Yeah,
the capacity to do. But I think you're totally right. It's hard to be in a position to kind of only do the things you're good at. Because if you're the person at the top, you still need to know and verify the work that everyone else is doing, right? It's
definitely.
not
Yeah,
just enough to kind of be like blindly, like, I asked this person to do this thing and they're just for sure going to do it. And I don't have to check over it at all or, do that at
definitely.
all. So I
Yeah,
think there is still very much, I guess, a labor to delegation. It's not simply that you're just handing it off. It's that you are hopefully having someone help you with something that will minimize the time that you then can look at it and be like, "Oh, this was worth the trade-off," you know?
definitely, yeah. I feel like that's what I imagine a project manager to be like in a business setting,
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
that's what I imagine in my head, that I'm just a project manager for my
Yeah.
dissertation.
No, I think that, when we position it like that, it makes a lot of sense that most PhDs would be, yeah, you have this program, right, of
Mhm.
multiple studies that you're trying to do, but to do it alone or by yourself, often with the scale of the project, probably
Mhm.
isn't going to be enough, right? Like for example, I'm sure that you work with people who are not just like people who know your PhD topic, but like who are all the other kinds of people you work with? Like what are their roles?
Yeah, I work with a lot of software developers. So that has really helped me expand kind of how I talk about my research and how I want even the products, like the software products that I'm working with, how I want those to function. So I think that also helps with just like science communication and getting those points across. And then making sure that from the research standpoint, like what we're creating is going to be like effective and people are going to want to use it, but then it's also feasible and possible that for a
Yeah.
PhD project that we can create these types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you say, like, within your own PhD project, what is the strength or the thing that you're bringing into it that no one else can do?
Yeah, well, I think having a technology that can take, um, people's wearable devices, people's blood glucose monitors, and, apply that to create a just-in-time adaptive intervention is super novel. We're kind of at this point with these Jedis, as you call them, where, we have a lot of ideas about how they can be effective and how they can work, but really
Mhm.
from the technology side, especially in academia, since it's a little bit more of a lengthy process to get kind of these, technologies up and going.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of research in, like, the formative areas on these things, but we don't have a lot of, like, actual, kind
the
of tangible
practical
end
stuff.
results.
Yeah,
Yeah, of, like, are we actually increasing physical activity? Are we actually helping people, like, manage their blood sugar better? So I really wanna get to a point where,
yeah,
yeah, we have some numbers to back that all this technology that we're, like, trying to use and trying to work together, is actually doing something
right.
meaningful for the end user.
Within your team though of like software developers and like I would
Mhm.
imagine the software developers know the software development side of things really well.
Yeah.
But then what do you feel like you're bringing into it that like kind of allows you to delegate a bit more? Or gives you that
Oh.
top-down sort of, like, idea, like, what do you need to know or have such that you can be the person to delegate rather than someone asking you to do something for them?
Ooh. I think because I have just worked with this team for so many years, is that even a good answer? I just
No, absolutely. I mean, I would imagine that given it is your sort of, research and your theory that you're bringing into this to kind of
Mhm.
develop this intervention, that you would probably have to have, like, the vision of what this should ultimately do, right? That you're
Totally.
kind of
Yeah.
you can kind of at the end of the day, people are giving you pieces of it, and you're like, "Okay, this is how it kind of all fits together."
Definitely, yeah, and because I work so closely with them too, I think because we can be so iterative with things, like, we're just, like, kinda checking every step of the way to make sure, "Yes, this works from a research side. Yes, this works from a software side.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep it moving."
Yeah, fantastic. So,
Mhm.
obviously, it sounds like you're an expert in delegating, which is great, but
Yeah.
certainly you had to learn at some point how to
Mhm.
delegate or even to take that initial step to be like, "I'm the kind of person who's in a position to even ask someone else to do something for me."
Yeah.
So, when did you learn this lesson?
I don't know if I can pinpoint like it was a cold January evening and this happened.
Yeah,
But it really, I think, got to the point where when I started my PhD, I had like some open ideas of where I wanted to go, but it wasn't until like I finally started like really narrowing in and meeting with my committee and like hammering out like what I actually wanted to do for my projects, where I was like, okay, now I know what I want to do for the rest of my PhD. But now I even more realize where I need to say no elsewhere
okay.
or prioritize elsewhere, and, like, really put my energy in. So I think, like, a culmination of kind of those things,
Tell
because like
me a
yeah,
little bit more about that. So you said kind of knowing how to say no or when to say no. I think it feeds a little bit into the idea of delegation where like you have to have this top sort of down view of what it is that you're managing, kind of that project manager role you mentioned. But
yeah.
then also you said saying no. What are the things you're saying no to?
Yeah. Well, throughout, I think any like academic career, academic journey, you're never
Yeah.
just working on one project. You're, helping out your other students, or even if you're not like formally helping someone out like on a project and like they haven't delegated tasks to you, you're still like in this collaborative environment where you're working with other people whether it's like physically with them or just like being next to them and typing out your own papers.
In
So
the trenches together.
yeah, in my basement with no windows.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Dark days, dark
Yeah,
days.
truly. It's apparently very sunny outside, wouldn't know. Um, yeah, so just once you kind of I guess for me, once I kind of figured out the direction and kind of could gauge how much time I needed to devote to my PhD to finish on this timeline that I made up in my head was when I kinda had
Mhm.
to pull back from other areas and when I realized, like, how to prioritize other things, and not just, like, work-wise, but also life-wise, like, if I wanted to write for 20 hours a day, I could probably finish my PhD a lot sooner, but just, like,
Yeah.
learning, yeah, how to say no to other tasks or even just no, not that much to other
Okay.
tasks, if you will,
Yeah.
kinda came around the time that I
Yeah. So it sounds to me like saying no and delegation are kind of two sides of, a similar coin because in a way, you being asked to do tasks or help with tasks is someone else delegating towards you, right? And being like, hey,
totally.
like we need you to
Yeah,
do this thing. And
yeah,
so how does one kind of I know that saying no can be a really difficult thing to do. Right, especially
yeah,
when someone is your boss or is your supervisor or, it's just someone that you don't wanna disappoint.
yeah.
So, how did you end up kind of navigating that big NO?
Yeah. Yes. I will say it's still a work in progress.
As it is, I'm sure.
Like,
Yeah,
especially when it's, like, a supervisor or someone, like, else, I'm like, "Oh, well, you're so much more busier than I am, so, like, surely I can just take this on," or, like, "I can, add a couple more hours to my day to get this done."
right.
Um, but I think it's really just, like, ripping the Band-Aid off, like, have the
Yeah,
first person you say no to just, like, try it out. It doesn't need to be, like, a big NO, but just "I don't have capacity right now. If you
yeah,
can't figure this," like, if you can't figure this out in a week, like,
yeah.
maybe my situation will change.
Yeah. Oh, I
But
love that the corporate speak where it's just like, "I don't have capacity right now." Right? Oh, man, I love it. And I
maybe we can
also
circle
yeah.
back.
Yeah, I also love the idea of leaving the door open and being like, "If you
Yeah.
haven't figured your shit out by, like, a week from now, you
Yeah.
can come ask me, but honestly, don't at me."
Yeah, I think yeah, just I still feel bad about it, but, like, I'll feel bad in the moment, but then I won't let it affect my day anymore, whereas, like, the guilt doesn't, I guess, eat at me
Yeah.
for as long now that, like, I don't know, you set boundaries. I feel like setting boundaries is, like, trendy right now, and it's fun
Yeah.
to do.
Sure, Andy, right now. I think it's just
I'm a
good practice, good pra
trendsetter.
Yeah. But then also on the other side of that too, right? Like there's saying no, because you obviously don't have the capacity to do something. And I think in the long run
Mhm.
it's better so you don't do kind of a crap job or
Yeah,
delay the thing that you're being asked to help with. But
yeah,
then on the other side of that, if you have people that are saying yes when they shouldn't be, and you're delegating tasks to them, and they're not coming back to you in time, or not coming back with the kind of quality you're expecting, how
mhm.
do you navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm also guilty of saying yes to way too much and then
Yeah.
disappointing people, and then that circles back on me of being like, "Okay, I
Yeah.
actually need to learn really quick how to say no and prioritize my time." Because then ultimately, like, when that does and has happened to me, it's, like, more work on myself kind of in the end. Because it's like, "Oh, like, I'm not gonna ask another person to do it because then what if this happens again?" And then we're circling kind of around that again, which I don't know,
Mhm.
maybe that is the strategy to do, but I think that also comes, like, with working with a close team, like, you generally know people's, like, capacities and people's, like, strengths and weaknesses,
Mhm.
so it could be avoidable in the long run,
Right.
but
It sounds to me like there is, an element of trust when you're working with people where it's like, I trust that you're going to not just get the job done if I ask and you say
Mhm.
and you agree, but
Yeah,
also that you're going to tell me no if you can't. And I think that
definitely, yeah.
that does come with that familiarity, does come with that kind of, you know, working with the team over time, like you said.
Definitely, yeah, and I think as well, like, when I get asked to do things, like, I know that people hold me to a standard that I
Mhm.
want to meet and even exceed if I can, so I hope that that's kind of reciprocated from the other way of, "Oh,
Yeah.
Amanda asked me to do this." I would like to do it well, if not better than well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think I don't know if I would call it loyalty, but reputation maybe. I don't know that that's as important as it used to be in the workplace. I think a lot of people now are just kind of like, well, the company doesn't care if I live or die. And you know what? Credit
Yeah.
to that, honestly. I totally believe
Yeah,
it. But at the same time, I think when you're working with a closer group of people that are aligned in a common goal, a common project that you all believe in, it's a lot, I think, more important to say to your team members and be to your team members that reliable person, or at the very least, that person that sticks to their word. Yeah.
definitely, yeah. And even, like, as a grad student, there's always that level of, like, like, we're not employed yet, like, we'll need
That's
references.
right.
Yeah,
You don't
we
have a
need
job.
we need references, like, we need to be good workers in order to want and, also have, like, soft skills and that stuff too, but, like, at the end of the day, like, we're still, like, building up our skill set to get a job
Yeah.
one day, so if someone's, like, repeatedly, like, being disappointing and not getting tasks done and, like,
Yeah.
continually saying yes, it's like, maybe they're
Yeah.
not, like, the best person to work with
It's like
in the
some
next place.
noted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't apply
exactly.
where they apply.
So, obviously, I don't think that delegation as a skill or as a lesson is something that is unique to the PhD. And speaking of, like, obviously, soft skills wise, it
Yeah.
applies to pretty much every job, right? It involves people. So, if someone didn't want to do a PhD, right, or, didn't want to have to go through what you have to go through to learn this lesson, what advice would
Mhm.
you give them? How should they better delegate?
Yeah, I think when you're thinking of delegation to kind of almost think of it in, like, the large sphere, like, it's not just between, like, 9 AM and 5 PM, it's, like, considering every part of your life and where
Okay,
you
I like
want to,
that.
like, channel your energy to, because if your energy is taken out between your 8-hour workday, like, you're just drained for the next day.
Yeah.
So, I think thinking of, yeah, just how you prioritize your time and your effort and, like,
Hmm.
filling your cup with what, like, brings you value, as an employee, as, like, a partner, as a friend,
Yeah, I
yeah,
actually like that. I mean, delegation, I think we often just think about occupational or work stuff, but
yeah.
I delegate the dishes all the time. And, it's like, not like to say that I don't like to do dishes or don't do them ever,
Yeah,
but certainly there's points where I'm like, hey, like I did this, you do that. And that feels like it strengthens, that kind of relationship rather
yeah,
than feeling like I'm kind of like copping out of it.
definitely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the reason we delegate is because we don't have enough time or enough energy to do it, so just, yeah, recognizing where our energy lies, whether at work or home or
Yeah.
anywhere in between.
I mean, and speaking too, like I like the idea of when you say think large scale, not just your 9 to 5, but I think a PhD, like you've been working on this project for how many years?
Way too long.
Right?
Um,
Like, and so when you think of
yeah.
large scale, this is literally over
Yeah.
years. Like I don't know the last time I did a systematic review, but the last one I did probably took like a year to do, start to finish, like
Mhm.
getting it all the searches and then getting it in a shape to get published and
Yeah,
submitted. Like, yeah, you kind of have to think about all the projects you're going to have and how they will kind of ebb and flow in workload over a certain period of time. And that
totally.
sort of delegation or that ability to say no is going to have to apply not just today and not just for this week, but potentially for months.
Yeah. Years.
Yeah,
And then you're still writing about it years later as you're fixing the dissertation.
as you're crawling
Yeah.
along, your garment's like, oh, you're crawling a little too slowly. I think you should
Yeah.
crawl faster.
Zip, buzz it up.
You should
Yeah.
stand out now. Awesome. Well, Amanda,
Yeah,
thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom. I think there's tremendous value to what you've said in terms of delegation, in terms of being able to say no. And I wish you the best of luck in finishing your PhD. I don't want to ask you how much time you have left. So maybe if you have, okay, for the number of months you have left, stay silent for that many seconds, starting now.
okay. I'm gonna be silent for a little
Oh, no. No, you
bit.
talked right there. Okay, you know what?
Okay,
You're close to
perfect, that
the end. You're good. All right, man. Thanks so much, eh?
works. Thank you so much for having me,
We'll
Yoa.
chat soon. See ya.
Bye.